This video doesn't need to be too long, but we have ourselves a waiver claim that I was actually anticipating heading into today. The Carolina Hurricanes have claimed goaltender Spencer Martin from the Columbus Blue Jackets. Now, one of the top replies goes out there and asks, who the hell is Spencer Martin? And this is one of those things where, when you think about it, like on paper, this is not really that big of a deal. But circumstantially, considering what's going on in Columbus and considering what's going on in Carolina, this makes a lot of sense. Spencer Martin is a goaltender that I was honestly expecting to get claimed ever since he was placed onto waivers yesterday. He was initially a Vancouver Canuck last year. He was a pretty good one, all things considered. Like, he made the team full-time and was the backup to Thatcher Demko. His numbers were not great, but that was because he was forced to play an extended amount of games because Demko was out with injury, and Martin was never really good enough to be a starter, despite the fact that he had a .950 save percentage and a .174 goals against in 21-22. There was a really good amount of hype for this guy, considering that he was a career backup and he eventually found himself on the Vancouver Canucks, played a small role, and was actually not bad. Last year, though, things kind of fell off the rails. We recognized that he wasn't good enough to be a full-time NHL number one or fight it out for a number one spot. He was really thrusted in there because Demko was hurt and he didn't make the best of it, which is why he ended up going to the Columbus Blue Jackets, and he got rotated around in that three-goalie system. We had already seen all the other rumors in Columbus saying that for Elvis Merzlikins, this was a guy who felt that he needed a different change of scenery. He wanted to be a number one. We had talked about this in a few videos on the channel. We talked about it here, the trade situation in Columbus, and then we also talked about it down here as well, where we discuss even further, hey, the guy asked for a trade. That's so odd. But either way, Merzlikins is now kind of picking off these names one by one. Not saying that he was directly responsible for the team sending Spencer Martin down on waivers, but this is news that Elvis Merzlikins would probably be okay with, considering there's one less spot for him to fight it out with on the roster. But Spencer Martin this season had an .887 save percentage, a .365 goals against in 13 games. Honestly, I'm not going to say that I thought that he would be amazing this season, considering Columbus is Columbus, but the fact that he was in the NHL was a good enough thing for me. This was a guy that was a good-hearted dude. You could tell that Spencer Martin had a good head on his shoulders. It's just, he wasn't good enough to play for the Vancouver Canucks, and Casey DeSmith is admittedly a lot better. Now, heading over to a Carolina Hurricanes team, that .887 save percentage in 13 games played would make him one of the better goaltenders on this squad. Better than Antti Ranta, and more games played than Frederik Andersen. Kochetkov is in a weird spot because there was an injury scare with him earlier this week, so the fact that the Carolina Hurricanes went out there and got themselves another guy, yeah, not surprising. In fact, what I think is surprising is the fact that it took until the Carolina Hurricanes to get Spencer Martin waiver claimed. They're 10th in the NHL right now, so considering the NHL standings, there were a lot of teams from 32 up until 11 that didn't decide to claim Martin. There are a lot of teams in here that would have needed extra goaltending support, so I am kind of surprised that Martin got all the way to number 10 before getting claimed, but the fact that he was claimed, I'm not surprised with that. So Columbus lost out on a good one. Spencer Martin might not have been the most special goaltender in the world, but he was a pretty good dude, at least based off of what I remember with him being in Vancouver. He was a journeyman. He worked his way up. He was an ECHL guy as far back as 4 years ago. So the fact that he's now in the NHL, he's getting claimed on waivers, he's heading over to a Carolina Hurricanes team that admittedly is pretty good. It's going to be nice to see Spencer Martin suiting up with a little bit more, let's just say, meaning behind his starts. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Spencer Martin getting claimed by the Carolina Hurricanes. This video doesn't need to be too long because we have some extra stuff to talk about for today's show, but I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.